It's a really common pattern that after an abusive childhood, survivors continue to find themselves in situations involving ongoing mistreatment. Whether you found yourself with abusive partners, you're realizing your friendships are one-sided, or you're struggling to feel safe in a spiritual community, there's one thing you can do to stop the pattern of consistently feeling abused or taken advantage of. Let's talk about it.
Start with healing one trigger at a time. You can do this.
I'm Tamara Ridge, licensed marriage and family therapist and survivor of childhood trauma. I grew up in a home where my personal safety seemed to depend on the moods of my parent. Does that sound familiar? I've healed myself after childhood trauma and abusive adult relationships, and I give survivors practical strategies for healing everyday problems that are caused by childhood trauma and complex PTSD. So when it comes to relationships with other people after childhood trauma, it's super important to heal your interaction style. For a child that's enduring neglect and abuse, interactions with an abusive adult only allow that child to have 3 potential options in terms of relationship choices. I'm going to give you these options and talk to you about how a child might respond, and I want you to think about what your patterns were in childhood and what they're like now in your adult relationships. So you can shift from those kind of abuse-induced strategies for getting your needs met in relationship to healthier ways of getting your needs met. So the first way that a child will interact with this parent is through something called compliance. It's by anticipating the needs of the adult and trying to meet those needs preemptively so that they can ensure their own safety. So it's something like watching, and when you see your parent is upset or not doing well, kicking into gear to take care of that parent, in hopes that the parent will in turn take care of you. What this leads to as an adult is always being afraid in your relationship and consistently neglecting your own needs to keep you feeling safe. So neglecting your own needs may be eating last, maybe taking care of everyone else first, maybe finding yourself completely exhausted at the end of the day while you've consistently and ongoingly taking care of everyone else's needs, putting yourself on the back burner all the time. This could also lead to not even knowing what your own needs are, and certainly not speaking up about your needs. Most of the time when we have a compliance style, we just hope that other people will just know what we need and take care of that need for us. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. Most of the time, we end up feeling abused and feeling taken advantage of. The second style of interaction that a child who's being abused will use with their parent is passive aggression. This is a less compliant style because there's an underlying anger that's really too scary to be expressed directly. So there's this disconnection between what the child says and what they do. They will say compliant things, they will agree, but then behind the parent's back, they do what they want. And most often it's inspired by anger because of the injustice that the parent is causing. In adulthood, as well as in childhood, but if you're an adult who survived using passive aggressive strategies, this will lead in your own behavior as an adult, in your relationships, to lying, to avoiding direct or clear communication, to making excuses about why you haven't done something that you've said that you've done, to sarcasm, humor that hurts other people, blaming other people with failed agreements, and basically really not being able to address conflict directly by asking specifically for your needs met, or for being able to tolerate that somebody else has a need that conflicts with your own and not being able to know how to address that. The third way that a child will interact with a parent is by becoming rebellious or aggressive, openly expressing and using anger to get what they want. Now, if you did this as a child, it's likely that it's led to adult behaviors of being abusive to other people because you have to win by force. There's a tendency to fight during conflict and an impulse to control other people's choices. So the thing to understand with each one of these styles, whether it's compliant, passive-aggressive, or aggressive, is that each person who uses this style feels threatened or fearful. And this is the motivation for the relation behavior that they have. But a compliant person ends up feeling and being abused in relationship. A passive-aggressive person can actually be abused or abusive, and aggressive behavior leads to abusive behavior. So the solution for every one of these situations is to identify your own feelings and needs, communicate them clearly, and allow the other person to make their own choices. And that's the hard part. So let's talk about it. Which style did you use to get through your childhood? Drop that in the comments below and let me know what's been the hardest part about adjusting to healthy communication of your needs as you've grown. You might also want to share this video with someone that's close to you and subscribe if you haven't already so that you can stay connected to this conversation and how to continue to heal as you work through your trauma from childhood. The thing that's important is that you have to know that you have to talk about these styles as you heal in your relationship, because most people believe that their partner's trying to hurt them, when in reality, we're all really just trying to get our needs met, and that's the problem. Most people who've had an abusive upbringing never learned to seek win-win solutions in relationship, and most of them don't even believe that that's possible. So if you want to replace compliant, passive-aggressive, or aggressive behaviors in your relationship, if you're compliant, you need to pay closer attention to yourself and your own needs. Speak about what you need to make direct requests. If you have a passive-aggressive style, then pay attention to your feelings during conflict. What do you think will happen if you stay connected and honest about your feelings? That's something to look at. And if you have a rebellious style, what do you think that you're going to lose if you state what you need openly and allow the person that you're interacting with to have the freedom to choose? Honestly evaluate these questions, no matter what your relationship style is, so that you can identify the triggers. And if you're safe, you need to recognize that you may not be responding in the here and now, but to something really old. And this is where you start when you're looking at healing your triggers to overcome childhood trauma. Thank you for watching. Remember that you're precious and you can do this. And I'll see you next time.